Hello and welcome. I'm Gohar Raza and you are watching Eureka, a program that brings you face to face with welcome Professor Dinesh Mohan. Thank you for giving us time. When you look back at your graph
Mhm.
of excelling in the field, then what are the major incidents in life that shaped you to become one of the experts in the world?
I think the credit would have to go with by luck or by chance or whatever, uh, ending up with the best people in the field when I started working in the U.S. And at the U.S. university. Uh, I don't think that in school or IIT in India, no one in the family or their friends or among my friends and their families ever suggested that spending your whole life in research was an option. So I think it's just by chance that you you go to a university in the U.S. Not only that, you end up with people who at that time were the leaders in the field.
The family, the environment at that time, you're going to IT Bombay and then going to US, shaped the trajectory. But there was a somersault that from aerospace and mechanical engineering, you enter into bioengineering. Now, aerospace was also in fashion at that time. It was a big thing, especially in United States of America. Why didn't you join aerospace rather than shifting to a very new nascent area?
I was doing my PhD uh, work, and at the same time, reasonably,
That's Michigan,
no, at University of Delaware,
Delaware. Yeah.
and at the same time, reasonably entrenched in the anti-war movement. And my friends in our meetings would tease me that how can I be protesting against the war while I'm getting trained to make war with aerospace industry.
Yes, aerospace was also very closely related
Yes,
to missile
that's right.
projects and bomb
So,
delivery systems.
and at the same, things happen by, by circumstance almost. Uh, in all American universities or European American universities, almost all, there is a weekly seminar for postgraduate students, which is like a religion.
You
That
have to
means
go there.
you have to, everyone go, including the faculty.
It's like
Everyone
going to church or mandir.
yes. So the weekly seminar has to be attended by all the students, whether you understand what's being said or not, whether it's any area of interest or not. And most of the faculty members turn up also. And because biomedical engineering was an emerging discipline, our department, which is Mechanical Aerospace Engineering Department, invited 2 or 3 of the nation's best experts in that area to give the seminars. And one of them, who actually was responsible for starting the firm Medtronics later on, which makes pacemakers,
Right.
he gave a seminar which was really very well done, very attractive, very influential. And I started writing to him after the seminar, whether how does one enter that area. And so he said, well, you have to get a degree in biomedical engineering or work in that area. So that was the easiest option and way out to continue research and not work for the arms industry.
Why did you decide to come back to India? Because you were doing the cutting edge technological research in a new emerging area and were assessing the airbags of cars.
All the safety work, yes.
All the safety work.
Yes, for new car designs.
Yeah. So why did you come back?
I don't think it was ever an issue. It's very interesting that though I lived there for a long time because I spent a lot of time getting my PhD, and after getting my degree, I worked for 3.5 years in a research institute while my wife was pursuing her PhD. So that amounted to a total of 12, 13 years. But I don't think for a moment in those 13 years I thought I could live in the US. And even my wife
What was the
is
reason?
always surprised that we never ever discussed with anyone whether we should go back or not. It was just assumed that we will go back.
There's no reason, but you wanted to.
Yeah, no
you were
reason.
very clear.
The only reason was I didn't want to live there.
Not to be argued.
Not to be argued. Not
And here
discussed.
you come and get a job in
Yes.
IIT Delhi. I was passing out when you joined IIT Delhi, but you were already famous because it was a new area that you were working on. How has been the journey within the country? Because you have also become a controversial figure because of certain policy decisions that you have suggested. How do you look back?
I don't think I could have done better in any other way. At times it's very difficult. Dealing with certain ways things are done is very difficult. But it was always a glorious fight and enjoyable, sometimes difficult. But I think I had the advantage of having developed a very nice, good support system among colleagues and friends around Delhi. That is not only within the institution, but there were a lot of things to discuss. There were a lot of, for example, you would remember we had this movement of young scientists asking for changes in policy and so on.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of relief
Yeah.
in meeting like-minded people, doing things, changing things. Then there were supportive people like Professor Yashpal and so on within the system.
It was a very vibrant, atmosphere.
And it's amazing that when I look back, that I don't think I give as much support to young people as some of those people did, like Professor Yashpal, Dr. Govarikar, and I can name a few more around Delhi. Professor Rahman, who started NISTADS. Much older than me, but I remember numerous times he invited us home for dinner. And so there was a huge support system around promoting
which probably
young people.
is cracking down now. Yes. But anyway, I wanted to ask you a much important question. You were instrumental in a lot of safety measures, yes, which are today taken as something usual. When I came to Delhi, there was no helmet. Today, everybody is supposed to wear helmet. Right. This was one thing where you worked extensively and has changed Delhi completely. What were the difficulties that you felt at that time? Because it was resisted by a lot of people, and that too very well designed, good design of helmets.
Actually, the resistance at that time also came, unfortunately, from some doctors who I think mistakenly thought that wearing of helmets also caused neck injuries. But we could prove that actually, because the helmets reduce the impact on the head, they also may reduce the possibility of neck injury, and so on. But what I think it's at a point where the Motor Vehicles Act was being amended, and the committees were meeting.
And you were part of it. You in fact shaped that policy.
And so in the 85, 86, 87, the bureaucrats in Ministry of Transport were friendly.
So at one level, yes, you were designing those and you were working on those helmets, which are much safer today. And on the other end, you had to formulate the policy, push those policies. Where did the support come from?
I think to make it compulsory was just had to be made a part of the Motor Vehicles Act of 1988. And I think, if I remember right, the secretary and the joint secretary at that time were supportive. And it was their support that it's a good idea, and with all the evidence we showed them.
So it was the research, which was cutting-edge research, the bureaucracy, and general support from medical practitioners of that time.
Not general support, I would say. But I would say
it wasn't general support.
Important individuals.
Important individuals which made the difference.
Right.
I have to take a break. Don't go anywhere. The discussion is going to continue. Welcome back, Professor Dinesh Mohan. It's very exciting to look back and see a Delhi where there was no helmet, and today lots of lives are saved just because this is implemented. But is it justifiable that in a poor country you have a group on which you invest so much of money to get a helmet in the country?
Mm-hmm.
Some people will say this kind of research can be done outside. Let's get the results and try to implement. What would be the justification for doing basic and applied research, which is costly?
Firstly, I don't think this kind of research is costly at all. In terms of percentage of any companies or corporations or anyone's economy, I would say it's nothing. As a matter of fact, I think we do too little of it. And research, I don't think we
You
can...
want more investment in science and technology?
I want more investment in good institutions where people... Because teachers who do research also teach better. And to have good schools, you should have people who have been taught well in universities. So it goes all the way down, number one. Number two, you never know how what you do today is going to help the nation in the future. For example, when I was in IIT Bombay, and IIT Bombay had come up with Russian aid, and we had this huge computer which the Russians had donated, and we had to learn machine language. I was in mechanical engineering, so I didn't have to do that much, but my friends in electrical engineering had to do much more. And everyone told us outside IIT how useless it was. No one was going to use that knowledge. India doesn't have those. How many people have computers and so on. But my suspicion is because these institutions had come up in India and people got trained, 7, 8, 9, 10 years later, when it was time for India to get into software and computers and so on, this group of young people who had already been trained in theory were available. And I think that's why 10 years later...
And we grabbed the opportunity and became leader.
And so, but if we had asked people in industry when we were learning machine language, they would have said, don't do it, it's useless. So I think it's very...
Don't waste taxpayers'
money. So I think a lot of these kind of debates are ill-informed, useless. I think we should be allowed to do things honestly, which excite us, without wasting too much money. And that has to be decided by societal debate. But the right decisions will be taken if such things are understood, you know, and how they benefit us. If everyone says they're useless, then we shut us down. And it's a society is in
But at that time, the period that you are talking about, at that time, India was a poorer country.
That's the amazing part.
And even then we did it.
That I think it is an incredible time, because when we were hungry, when we were importing food, we set up these institutions. And today, when we are much richer, our industrial leaders and our civil servants and many of our politicians are telling us we shouldn't do it. And I just find it unbelievable that we could take such decisions when we were poor, very poor.
Very poor nation.
And very poor nation. And having wars. While I was in IIT, we had the Chinese war and the Pakistan war. And yet we did these things.
Which drained out a lot of wealth.
As a matter of fact, the year I graduated, there were no jobs. For us to be, 70% of my class did not have a job the day we graduated. So,
and this was IIT.
This was IIT.
Think of others. Anyway, one debate which you were intensely involved in fact, BRT of Delhi was your baby, if I may say.
Actually, our group, so, not me alone, but our whole group in IIT.
Yeah, but you were the leading icon of one kind of argument. If I go to Ahmedabad, the only thing that impresses me within Gujarat model is BRT.
Mm-hmm.
It is very effective, it is very efficient. In Delhi, people did not accept it. What were the reasons?
It would be wrong to say that people did not accept it. It is a newspaper or two newspapers which did not accept it and carried on a campaign with full page devoted to it for months. I have not seen any other issue on which the newspapers have done this. So on such a minor issue of 8 kilometers of one road in a huge city. And that influenced people's upper class, middle class opinion. You can't judge anything, whether it's a success or not, if it is only, suppose we only made 8 kilometers of the metro. Would it be successful? So I think Mrs. Dixit got cold feet for all kinds of reasons and stopped the completion.
You still think that Delhi's problems can be solved to a great extent if we introduce BRT and safe passage for cyclists?
Well, I wouldn't just say BRT. I would say what we should have to do is to give reserved lanes for public transport. And there are different designs for that, of which the BRT design of Delhi is one of them.
And non-fuel transport,
no,
which you have been very forcefully saying that unless people start using bicycle, the motors will keep out.
Actually, I'm not even saying that more people should use bicycles. What we are saying is that there are so many people using bicycles. The number of people who go to work on bicycles in Delhi is about the same as the number of people who go to work in cars. So it is democratically fair to give those people a space on the road which is safe, which we did on the BRT, and it has worked amazingly. Bicyclists don't get killed on the BRT. We have to give enough space for pedestrians. And so it's because we are supposed to be a democratic country. And the road represents the democratic space. And when you go to any country, you can understand, is democracy working there or not, by looking at how the road space is allocated. And so...
And it's very undemocratic share
on our Indian roads.
On Indian.
So you really know that democracy is for elections, but when you come down to real democracy, it doesn't exist, especially in people's lives.
You've also argued that Indian cities like Delhi are not worse than many cities across the world in similar kind of situation. As far as pollution is concerned, you have argued that Delhi is not the worst of the polluted cities in India as well as internationally. And therefore, you have also argued that the solutions to be found have to be very different. Would you like to tell something about that argument? Because it's a very difficult argument. It's not intuitive argument. It's very counterintuitive.
See, I get confused when I look at the numbers, because when I look at the numbers, the total number of vehicles in Delhi per person is much less than many other cities. Also, we have thrown out the industries from Delhi many years ago because of PIL, which I thought was a very wrong decision.
Absolutely correct.
We shouldn't have thrown them out. We should have made them cleaner because they need jobs in the city. But coming back on the pollution issue, so I'm still very confused on why is the situation so bad. And I think that's partly because we don't have enough good work to understand where this pollution is coming from. For example, nitrous oxides.
And NOx. Unless we understand what you call as quick fix solution, will not work.
No, because when you have a quick fix solution, likelihood of working is less. When it doesn't work, after you do something, it doesn't work after some time, people start getting disillusioned by government action. And they say they're just bothering us. So I think it's much better to have solutions, the correct solutions, go slowly, get the people's confidence in the system. I think it's very important for people to understand when the government or the court does something is for our good. When the people are suspicious of the courts and the governments and their intentions, I think it's very difficult to even implement the correct solutions. So I think we have to be careful, and we don't have enough people working on these issues in the city.
So you are arguing two things. One, that research, and that too meticulous, long time research is required for seeking these solutions or arriving at conclusions. And then judiciary, executive, scientific community has to come together to implement these solutions. Some of these solutions are going to be highly political, controversial, etc.
That's normal. Yeah.
That is normal in a democracy. But the scientific community has to be conscious of this whole dynamic.
Actually, the problem, one thing I would like to point out, that in societies like India, where you have huge disparity, a lot of poor people, etc. So there's a huge amount of disparity in education and quality of people, and quality of degrees, and quality of PhDs. So if I want to have 10 good people in my department, it's necessary for me to employ 50. So that by chance alone, I get 10 good people. If I say I'm going to select only 10 good people, the chances are I might get only 10 bad people. So yeah, our institutions have to be large to have a few good people in each institution by chance. And it's no point keep complaining that we are corrupt. That's what it is. And within that, how do we manage?
Given within that system.
That's right. How do you do well? So once you have 10 good people in a department and 10 IITs in Delhi, or such institutions in Delhi, then you'll have 100 people who can argue. And there'll be a collegiate in one view, collegiate in another view, then the system can look after itself. But if you have one person arguing for something, someone else arguing, then it becomes personalized. So that's the problem.
One CNR Rao cannot, in fact, carry the burden of the science. We have to have a
large number of people,
bigger
so that you remove personalities from the debate, if possible.
You have been in the controversy. You have been on the cutting edge side of the both science and technology. Your work has been recognized. What was the moment of Eureka in your life?
Sorry?
What was the moment of Eureka in your life? When did you say, I've done it?
I really, since I've done small things.
You're being modest.
There was no, but I would say this one thing which was very small, but I really liked that study, was when we studied people getting burnt from fireworks and discovering that it was not the rockets and the bombs, but the anar which was burning people. And it became a nationally known issue, and then some standards were made for making fireworks safer. That gave a lot of satisfaction. And along with that, if you remember, we had the campaign on television for people to use water on burns.
Right.
And again, that had a huge effect of the whole issue of using cold water on burns being known nationwide. So sometimes very, very small efforts give you a lot of satisfaction.
These two things have, in fact, changed the consciousness of the country at one level and saved a huge number of lives.
So at the same time, we've also done quite a bit of very sophisticated work, because we are, for example, in IIT Delhi, we are probably the only group in India who can, in academic institutions, who can actually do crash modeling of vehicles and human beings to understand what happens in an accident. It's very, very sophisticated work in which even just one software costs a couple of crores. But
we are now today as a nation capable of doing such research.
And many of our students, almost all the car companies who do such work in India employ our students. So that's also gives you a great deal of satisfaction.
Would you like to sign off by giving a message to the younger generation, which is getting away from science? Some people are...
I'll give a message, if some politicians and bureaucrats are watching, that for India to do well, we have to provide jobs for scientists in the public sector, which is railways, PWD, National Highway Authority of India, NTPC. We must have hundreds and hundreds of people who have public sector jobs of that kind.
And these are scientists you're talking about.
And these are scientists. And unless we do that, expansion of IITs, IIMs will not make that much of a difference, because our products, especially those who do research like MTechs and PhDs, will not have enough jobs. And for the younger generation, I think the excitement I've felt all my life working in India, I think you're going to have a better time if you also push for things like the way we did.
Push the things, learn from the older generation, and feel the excitement of creativity. That is the message we take back home. The nation has to provide younger generation lots and lots of jobs. Only then India can develop. Do write to us at our address eurekarstv@gmail.com. We'll see you next week with another fascinating personality, a scientist who has made a mark. Till then, goodbye.